10. Jet Li performed many of his most dangerous stunts while recovering from a serious injury. People know Jet Li, a wushu prodigy, a national champion, a once-in-a-generation talent. What they don't know is that when filming began, Jet Li was nowhere near full health. Months before production started, he had suffered a significant back injury, the kind that would normally leave an athlete on strict rest for a year. But Hong Kong action cinema in the 90s didn't operate with Hollywood safety nets. There were no long recovery breaks, no delay in filming, and very little willingness to slow down choreography for the star. Jet Li stepped onto the set still in pain, still healing, and still expected to deliver revolutionary action scenes at blistering speed. And he did. American stunt coordinators later said the reason his movements in this film feel so shockingly fluid and explosive is because the danger was disturbingly real. Wire work was minimal. CGI was non-existent. Padding and protection were extremely limited. When Jet Li jumped from narrow beams, spun through mid-air ladder sequences, or exchanged rapid-fire staff strikes, he was doing it with a back that protested every twist. Crew members recalled moments between takes when he leaned against walls, shutting his eyes just to gather strength for the next shot. The famous ladder fight alone would have taken weeks to rehearse in the United States. Jet Li performed much of it after learning new segments of choreography only minutes beforehand. That's how Hong Kong cinema operated: spontaneous choreography, extreme precision, and a relentless shooting schedule from sunrise until long after midnight. This was physical filmmaking, the kind Hollywood rarely attempted. One American martial arts historian compared Jet Li's performance to a quarterback playing the Super Bowl on an injured spine, then winning MVP anyway. It wasn't just athleticism. It was willpower, discipline, and an unwavering belief that Wong Fei-hung deserved authenticity. Jet Li refused to let a stunt double perform key staff sequences. He considered those movements essential to the character's spirit, something no double could replicate. His philosophy was simple: audiences would know if it wasn't him. And he was right. His physical performance became one of the most iconic portrayals in martial arts history. What viewers didn't see was the cost. Jet Li pushed through pain so severe that several scenes required strategically timed breaks to prevent muscle spasms. But none of this struggle appears on his face. On screen, he is calm, graceful, controlled, the very image of a legendary master. That contrast between what the audience sees and what Jet Li endured is what makes this fact so astonishing. Behind the elegance was agony. Behind the hero was a man fighting his own body while performing one of the most technically demanding roles in martial arts cinema. And he still delivered a career-defining performance. Number 9. The film hid a bold political message inside a martial arts adventure. For many viewers, especially those discovering the movie through U.S. imports in the 90s, Once Upon a Time in China seemed like a stylish historical action drama about nationalism, foreign influence, and cultural pride. But beneath the surface, the movie carried a far more daring political weight than most people ever realized. When the film was made, Hong Kong was still under British rule and only a few years away from the 1997 handover to China. Anxiety was everywhere, socially, culturally, economically, and that tension shaped the movie's themes in subtle but powerful ways. Wong Fei-hung, as portrayed by Jet Li, wasn't just a martial arts hero. He became a symbol of moral clarity and cultural survival during a time when Hong Kong's own identity felt uncertain. The film's portrayal of foreign military presence, corrupt officials, Western missionaries, modern firearms, and internal chaos wasn't random. It served as a mirror reflecting the doubts and hopes of a society caught between two worlds. Western audiences enjoyed a patriotic underdog story. Hong Kong audiences felt something deeper, a reflection of their fears and questions about the future. Even the film's treatment of modernization was politically nuanced. Western tools, guns, medicine, education are shown as both helpful and threatening. The message is not anti-West, nor is it blindly nationalistic. Instead, the film argues for a balance: embrace change, but do not lose cultural identity. This was a bold stance. Several American film scholars later referred to Once Upon a Time in China as one of the first major martial arts films to explore cultural identity and emotional and political struggle rather than a simple patriotic slogan. The film's narrative complexity allowed it to speak to historical concerns while remaining accessible to global audiences. Jet Li wasn't just acting, he was embodying a symbolic role at a pivotal moment in Hong Kong's cultural evolution. The audience at the time may not have articulated it, but they felt it deeply. That emotional undercurrent is a major reason the film became more than entertainment. It became a cultural statement. #8. Yuen Woo-ping's revolutionary choreography changed martial arts cinema forever. If Jet Li was the heart of Once Upon a Time in China, then Yuen Woo-ping was unquestionably its pulse. Before this film, Yuen Woo-ping was already recognized as one of the greatest action choreographers in Asia, but what he created here wasn't merely fight choreography. It was a language, a visual philosophy, a new rhythm of motion that blended historical authenticity, operatic grandeur, and a kinetic energy that Western audiences had barely seen before. The Hong Kong action industry had always taken pride in speed, fast punches, quick cuts, rapid movements. But Yuen Woo-ping wanted something deeper: elegance, precision, and storytelling embedded within every motion. Instead of random exchanges of fists and kicks, he built emotional arcs into the choreography. Wong Fei-hung's movements are calm, defensive, measured. His opponent's movements are chaotic, desperate, violent. Every clash becomes a narrative beat. Every technique reflects a worldview. That was revolutionary. One thing American martial arts fans often say when watching the film for the first time is that the fights feel alive, almost like watching a moving painting. That sensation comes from Yuen Woo-ping's signature approach, mixing authentic wushu forms with cinematic exaggeration. He used wire work not to defy physics, but to enhance rhythm. Movements were heightened, not artificial. Characters felt larger than life without abandoning realism. The now famous fight on the docks, wooden planks shaking, rain pouring, silhouettes leaping against stormy skies, was choreographed so meticulously that multiple stunt performers later admitted it was more exhausting than anything they had done before. It wasn't just about impact, it was about visual poetry. Even American directors who saw the film years later marveled at how the choreography communicated emotion without a single line of dialogue. Hollywood would eventually study Yuen Woo-ping's techniques heavily, especially when he later shaped The Matrix and Kill Bill. Perhaps the most groundbreaking aspect of his work in this film was how he blended multiple martial arts styles into one cohesive narrative expression. Wong Fei-hung's core techniques are rooted in Hung Gar, a Southern Shaolin style known for stability and powerful stances. But Yuen Woo-ping layered in wushu fluidity, traditional lion dance footwork, and acrobatic elements borrowed from his own Peking opera heritage. The result was a fighting style that felt historical, mythic, and modern all at once. The latter fight scene stands as the masterpiece of this hybrid philosophy. Jet Li and Yan Chaiquan duel through a labyrinth of wooden frames, spinning, vaulting, and striking with impossible precision. Behind the scenes, the choreography evolved almost daily. Yuen Woo-ping would watch Jet Li's footing, analyze how the latter's reacted, and redesign entire sequences on the spot to maximize fluidity. In Hollywood, that kind of improvisational creativity would terrify insurance companies. On a Hong Kong set, it was simply Tuesday. Without Yuen Woo-ping's creativity, the film would still be good. With him, it became a stylistic revolution, one whose influence is still visible in modern action cinema worldwide. 7. The casting of Rosamund Kwan transformed the role of 13th Aunt into a modern icon. While the film is remembered primarily for its action, one of its greatest surprises is how emotionally grounded it feels, and that is largely because of Rosamund Kwan's portrayal of 13th Aunt, a character who became far more important and beloved than writers initially imagined. In older depictions of Wong Fei-hung, the character of 13th Aunt was usually minor, sometimes comedic, occasionally romantic, but rarely meaningful. Once Upon a Time in China changed that forever. By casting Rosamund Kwan, a rising star known for both elegance and emotional strength, the filmmakers elevated the character into one of the earliest modern female leads in Hong Kong historical action cinema. She wasn't just there to react to the men. She influenced the plot, challenged Wong Fei-hung's worldview, and represented a new form of femininity emerging in Chinese storytelling. Her character embraced Western education, photography, and modern technology while still maintaining cultural identity. In a film filled with political subtext, 13th Anne became the symbol of modernization without moral compromise. And yet, the brilliance of her portrayal lies not in ideology, but in chemistry. Her interactions with Jet Li bring warmth into a world filled with conflict. Their relationship is quiet, respectful, filled with unspoken emotions that American audiences often compare to classic Hollywood pairings, romantic but restrained, deep but wordless. Kwan gives the film its emotional core, reminding viewers that even heroic figures like Wong Fei-hung must confront personal vulnerabilities. Some behind-the-scenes accounts say that Jet Li himself suggested expanding 13th Aunt's scenes because he felt the film needed emotional grounding. Whether or not that's fully accurate, what is undeniable is how seamlessly the two performers balance each other. Jet Li embodies moral strength, Rosamund Kwan embodies cultural transition. Together, they represent the heart of a nation caught between two eras. Her presence also reshaped how future films in the series and even unrelated Hong Kong films portrayed female leads. Gone were the days when women in martial arts movies existed only for slapstick humor or romantic confusion. 13th Aunt was intelligent, capable, influential, emotionally layered, and essential to the story. Many American fans who first discovered the film on DVD rewatch it later, thus to enjoy Kwan's subtle expressions and character growth. Perhaps the strongest testament to her impact is that for an entire generation of viewers, Rosamund Kwan became the definitive 13th Aunt across the entire Wong Fei-hung mythos. Even reboots struggle to recapture her combination of softness, dignity, strength, and modernity. In a film dominated by groundbreaking choreography and explosive action, it is remarkable that one of the most enduring elements is the quiet charisma of a woman who changed the emotional landscape of the story. Number 6. The film's opening lion dance sequence was far more dangerous than it looks. The lion dance at the beginning of Once Upon a Time in China is one of the most beloved scenes in the entire movie. It's festive, energetic, colorful, and feels like a celebration of tradition. But what most viewers never realized is that this sequence was one of the most dangerous parts of the entire production, perhaps even more so than the major fights later in the film. Unlike many Hollywood productions, where set pieces are carefully controlled and tightly choreographed for safety, this lion dance was performed on unstable, towering wooden poles constructed by the art department. These poles weren't built as athletic platforms, they were made to look like traditional festival structures, which meant they were intentionally uneven, creaky, and susceptible to shifting under pressure. The stunt performers had to leap from one narrow beam to another while carrying a heavy lion head prop, often with minimal safety padding below. If someone slipped, the consequences would have been catastrophic. Reports from crew members say that even experienced lion dance performers refused certain jumps because the angles were too sharp or the beams too far apart. Yuen Woo-ping, determined to capture the authentic festival atmosphere, wanted a level of realism that pushed every performer to the edge. Some shots were achieved only after stuntmen rehearsed for hours on the ground, memorizing spacing down to the inch, before attempting the elevated version. Jet Li himself did not perform the most dangerous leaps in this scene, but he did participate in segments that required precise timing. If he was even half a second off, he risked colliding with performers landing above or below him. Because of the large number of people involved, coordination became a massive challenge. Imagine trying to synchronize a dozen athletes on narrow platforms while pyrotechnics explode below and the entire structure sways under collective weight. That was the reality of filming. Many American fans watching the scene for the first time assume it was executed with wires or steady Hollywood scaffolding. But the truth is that most of it was shot on raw, physical structures, with the stunt team relying on reflexes, mutual trust, and gut instinct. One slip could have ended a career or a life. The risk paid off. The lion dance isn't just an entertaining introduction, it sets the tone of the entire film. It's joyous but tense, rooted in tradition but filled with danger. It mirrors the world Wong Fei-hung must navigate, a China balancing celebration and chaos, strength and vulnerability. And from a filmmaking standpoint, it proved once again that Hong Kong cinema could achieve spectacle rivaling anything Hollywood produced without CGI, without digital manipulation, and without compromising authenticity. #5 The production nearly collapsed due to budget pressure and scheduling chaos. As polished and powerful as Once Upon a Time in China appears on screen, the production itself was a storm barely held together. Financial strain, tight schedules, and unexpected obstacles almost shut the film down multiple times. Many insiders consider it a miracle that the final product feels so cohesive, because behind the scenes, it was barely controlled chaos. Hong Kong cinema during the early 90s operated at lightning speed. Studios expected fast turnaround, minimal downtime, and maximum output. That pressure fell hardest on films with large casts, period costumes, and massive set pieces, exactly the type of film Once Upon a Time in China was. Every major action sequence required intense preparation, building large structures, choreographing hundreds of moves, training stunt performers, and coordinating dozens of extras. Yet production had to move quickly because every extra day on set meant higher costs the studio didn't want to absorb. Set construction was one of the biggest budget drains. The team built entire marketplaces, alleyways, and waterfront structures specifically for the film. Recreating late Qing Dynasty China require dense detail, handcrafted props, and historical accuracy. But money was tight, and the schedule was merciless. If a structure wasn't finished in time, the crew didn't delay shooting, they simply worked around it, shooting close-ups or rearranging scenes to hide unfinished elements. It was filmmaking triage. Then came weather. Several outdoor scenes depended on specific lighting and atmosphere, but unpredictable storms forced the crew to change plans constantly. Some days, the team arrived ready to film complex action sequences, only to discover that high winds made wire work unsafe or that rain had turned the wooden sets dangerously slippery. Instead of halting production, the crew improvised. Yuen Woo-ping sometimes redesigned entire scenes to fit the conditions, turning logistical setbacks into creative solutions. Scheduling chaos wasn't just a crew problem, it affected the cast as well. Jet Li was juggling multiple commitments, and Rosamund Kwan was in high demand, meaning the production had to shoot scenes whenever they became available, not necessarily in narrative order. This required the directors to maintain continuity mentally, ensuring emotional beats align even when scenes were filmed weeks apart. The intensity of the shoot left several cast members exhausted, and some stunt performers suffered heat stroke, sprains, and bruises from constant retakes. At one point, the studio reportedly considered reducing the number of major fight scenes to save money. But Yuen Woo-ping pushed back, arguing that the film's ambitions demanded scale. Instead of cutting scenes, the team found ways to stretch the budget, sometimes shooting with a skeleton crew, sometimes using unplanned locations, sometimes shifting production late into the night to avoid daytime costs. What saved the project, ultimately, was relentless creativity and collective determination. Everyone from stuntmen to set designers to camera operators believed they were making something special. They saw the potential, even if the studio didn't at first. Their commitment transformed what could have been a chaotic, compromised production into a masterpiece that still inspires filmmakers today. The irony is that audiences now see the film as grand, seamless, and artistically confident, unaware of the frantic decision-making behind each moment. But that's part of the magic of Hong Kong cinema. The chaos becomes invisible, and the vision remains immortal. Number 4. The film reinvented the image of Wong Fei-hung for a new generation. Before Once Upon a Time in China, Wong Fei-hung had already been portrayed in more than 100 films, most famously by Quan Ta-king. But those older versions were more traditional, stoic, elder, almost saint-like in demeanor. Jet Li's portrayal changed everything. He introduced a younger, more emotionally complex, more physically dynamic version of the legendary figure, and this reinvention completely reshaped how modern audiences, especially younger viewers in Asia and America, perceived Wong Fei-hung. Instead of a wise old master dispensing lessons, Jet Li played him as a man still learning how to navigate a changing world. His Wong Fei-hung is principled yet conflicted, powerful yet gentle, a master fighter who would rather avoid violence than engage in it. This quieter emotional core made him feel human, not mythical, and that shift allowed viewers to relate to him on a personal level. For American audiences, discovering the film through imported VHS tapes or late-night cable channels, this version of Wong Fei-hung felt fresh and exciting. He wasn't untouchable. He struggled with modernity, cultural upheaval, internal doubt, and even awkward romance, yet he remained morally uncheckable. Many viewers compared him to the archetypal American hero, someone who stands firm in chaos, not because he seeks glory, but because doing the right thing is the only path he accepts. This reinvention also influenced an entire generation of future martial arts films. Young actors and directors suddenly saw Wong Fei-hung not as a historical figure trapped in tradition, but as a timeless hero who could adapt to modern storytelling. Jet Li's dignified vulnerability became the model for countless martial arts protagonists in the years that followed. Another overlooked detail is how the film subtly positioned Wong Fei-hung as a bridge between old and new China. He holds fast to traditional values, yet respects progress when it aligns with moral integrity. This nuanced characterization resonated deeply with Hong Kong audiences facing real-world uncertainty in the early 90s. And for international viewers, it provided a relatable human anchor in a story filled with large-scale political and cultural themes. The impact of Jet Li's version was so powerful that many people around the world now consider him the definitive Wong Fei-hung. That legacy continues today whenever discussions arise about who best embodied the legendary martial arts master. Jet Li's name remains at the top. Number 3. The film's musical theme became one of the most recognizable sounds in martial arts cinema. Even viewers who haven't watched the movie in years can instantly recognize its soaring musical theme, often referred to as "A Man Should Better Himself." For many, it has become synonymous not only with Wong Fei-hung, but with the entire spirit of martial arts tradition. What makes the theme remarkable is how perfectly it captures the emotional identity of the film's strength, dignity, hope, and cultural pride all in one unforgettable melody. Composed by James Wong and arranged with cinematic grandeur, the theme blends traditional Chinese instrumentation with Western orchestral elements. This wasn't just a stylistic choice, it reflected the film's entire narrative philosophy. The story was about a nation wrestling with foreign influence and internal change, and the music mirrored that tension. Traditional percussion and flutes symbolize cultural roots, while sweeping strings introduce a sense of modern cinematic scale. The result is a musical fusion that feels both ancient and contemporary, just like the world Wong Fei-hung inhabits. The theme appears at key emotional moments: lion dances, heroic confrontations, and scenes where Wong Fei-hung stands firm in his principles. Each time the melody rises, it reinforces the character's internal strength. Many fans describe the music as a moral soundtrack, a reminder of who Wong Fei-hung strives to be even when the world around him becomes chaotic. Interestingly, this theme became a cultural bridge long before global media was as interconnected as it is today. American martial arts enthusiasts who discovered the film in the 90s often say the music was their first exposure to traditional Chinese motifs, and it left such a strong impression that they would hum it for years afterward. Some U.S. martial arts schools even adopted the melody for demonstrations because it evoked discipline and heroism without requiring any explanation. What's even more surprising is that the theme wasn't initially expected to become iconic. Early production notes show that the studio viewed it as simply a strong opening cue, not a cultural anthem. But audiences embraced it with such enthusiasm that it became inseparable from the film's identity. Sequels kept the melody, tribute concerts performed it, parodies and homages appeared across Asian media, and decades later, the tune still triggers nostalgia instantly. Its emotional power lies in its clarity. It doesn't rely on complexity, it relies on resonance. A rising melody that feels like someone standing tall. A rhythmic pattern that echoes discipline and purpose. A harmony that suggests loyalty and virtue. It's music crafted not just for the ear, but for the heart. In the same way John Williams created instantly recognizable cinematic themes for American blockbusters, James Wong crafted a musical identity for Chinese heroic cinema. The theme from Once Upon a Time in China may not have played on every radio station worldwide, but within the martial arts genre, it is legendary. It represents a moment in film history when sound and story aligned so perfectly that the music became a character of its own. Even today, when fans revisit the film or show it to new viewers, one of the first comments is always the same: "I forgot how powerful the music is." That reaction is the mark of true cinematic legacy. Number 2, the film became a breakthrough moment for Hong Kong cinema in the international market. While Hong Kong cinema had already earned a cult following overseas thanks to Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Sammo Hung, Once Upon a Time in China marked a different kind of breakthrough. It wasn't just an action movie that impressed martial arts fans. It was a dramatic, cinematic epic that earned respect from global critics, filmmakers, and international festivals in a way most Hong Kong action films never had before. This film demonstrated that Hong Kong could produce large-scale, emotionally rich, historically layered cinema that matched or surpassed Western productions in ambition and artistry. American audiences who encountered the movie through Chinatown theaters, independent video stores, or cable TV marathons were stunned by its combination of beauty, depth, and raw athletic filmmaking. It wasn't just fights and acrobatics, it was storytelling with weight. In the early 90s, Hollywood was not making action films like this. US action was dominated by muscle-bound heroes, explosions, and straightforward plots. Then came Jet Li's elegant, disciplined, morally grounded Wong Fei-hung, framed inside a narrative exploring colonial tension, cultural identity, and generational change. For many American viewers, it introduced a different cinematic language, one where action served philosophy, where choreography expressed internal conflict, where the hero's strength came not from aggression, but from restraint. International film festivals took notice. Critics praised the film's visual composition, comparing its sweeping shots and dynamic framing to European historical epics. Film scholars highlighted its cultural subtext. Action enthusiasts admired its choreography. Suddenly, Hong Kong cinema was no longer seen solely as a niche martial arts market, but as a global artistic force. The movie's success abroad also changed industry expectations. Studios realized that martial arts films could be more than fast-paced entertainment, they could be prestige cinema. This paved the way for future international hits like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Hero, and House of Flying Daggers. Many of the directors and choreographers who contributed to those later films cited Once Upon a Time in China as a key artistic influence. Even Hollywood took notes. Directors like the Wachowskis, Quentin Tarantino, and the Russo brothers openly referenced the film as an inspiration for their own work. Jet Li's eventual crossover into U.S. cinema, Lethal Weapon 4, Romeo Must Die, the one was built on the worldwide acclaim he gained from this role. Without the success of Once Upon a Time in China, Jet Li might never have become a global household name. It's difficult to overstate how significant this movie was for Hong Kong's international reputation. It wasn't just a film, it was a statement, a declaration that Hong Kong cinema could rival Hollywood in artistry, ambition, and excellence. And decades later, that legacy remains untouchable. Number 1. Jet Li's portrayal became the definitive Wong Fei-hung for an entire generation. Wong Fei-hung has been portrayed by dozens of actors, but Jet Li's version became the gold standard the portrayal future adaptations would be judged by, studied, imitated, and celebrated. What made his performance so definitive wasn't just his martial skill. It was the emotional dimension he brought to the character. Jet Li presented Wong Fei-hung as calm but conflicted, powerful but humble, unwavering in morals, yet surprisingly gentle. He didn't simply perform martial arts. He embodied a philosophy. His movements reflected discipline. His silence reflected contemplation. His restraint reflected wisdom. This humanized version of Wong Fei-hung resonated with viewers worldwide, from Hong Kong audiences facing cultural uncertainty to American viewers discovering Chinese heroism for the first time. There's a subtlety in Jet Li's performance that often goes unnoticed. Watch how he holds posture when confronting foreign soldiers, perfectly upright, dignified, respectful but never submissive. Watch how he interacts with 13th and softening his voice, lowering his gaze, revealing emotional vulnerability beneath a heroic exterior. Watch how he fights not with rage, but with precision, efficiency, and moral clarity. These are the details that transformed a folkloric hero into a living, breathing human being. This portrayal set a standard not only for Wong Fei-hung films, but for martial arts cinema in general. Chinese heroes in subsequent films increasingly embrace dignity, internal struggle, and emotional complexity thanks to the precedent Jet Li set here. The influence can be seen in Donnie Yen's Ip Man, Zhang Ziyi's characters, and even Hollywood's later depictions of heroic martial artists. Jet Li would go on to play countless iconic roles, but many fans still say Wong Fei-hung, his most perfect performance, a role that captured the essence of who he is as both an athlete and an artist. He wasn't trying to be flashy, comedic, or intimidating. He was trying to honor a cultural legacy, and he succeeded beyond expectation. That is why, even decades later, when people hear the name Wong Fei-hung, Jet Li's face is the one they imagine. His portrayal didn't just define the character, it became the character. Once Upon a Time in China is far more than a martial arts classic. It is a cultural landmark, a cinematic revolution, and a career-defining masterpiece for Jet Li. Behind every frame lies ambition, struggle, innovation, and artistry. And these 10 facts reveal why the film's legacy remains so powerful today, not just in Hong Kong, not just in Asia, but across the entire world of cinema. If you enjoyed discovering these hidden truths behind one of Jet Li's greatest films, then you know what to do. If you like this video, don't forget to hit like and share so more people can rediscover this masterpiece. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another deep dive into legendary movies. Join the channel as a member to unlock exclusive behind-the-scenes content and extended breakdowns. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, use the super thanks button. Every contribution helps us keep creating high-quality cinematic history content. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.